Hey guys, welcome to the show Raha. Back fitness number, I think it's 35, and this is London Marathon recap. So the weekend started well in that when I collected my daughter Saoirse from school on Thursday. On the way home, there was a double rainbow over Dublin Bay, which was a good sign of things to come. Up then early Friday morning, drove out to Dublin Airport. No hassle at all, clean through the airport, onto the flight. Flight was a little bit delayed on the tarmac, but all good. It's only a 50-minute flight to London. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah? Where are we going?
London.
For what?
For Daddy's race.
For Daddy's race. Landed in Heathrow, seamless to the tube into London then, and it was great on the tube, as we had met a couple of people in the airport from various clubs in Dublin who were going to do the race as well, and chatting to them. It was the same on the tube. You know, when you go to big cities, they say don't make eye contact with people, but our carriage was just full of people after travelling over from Ireland for the race, and it was all just chat. So there was people from Raheny Shamrocks, Rathfarnham, DSD. There was a lovely couple in our carriage from Team Carry up around Dunleer there. So we had a really good bit of fun on the tube. So our plan was to go straight from Heathrow to the ExCeL Centre to pick up the number. So we got the tube into the city centre, jumped lines, and then a little bit further on, and then we got the DLR then down to the ExCeL Centre. Now, to be honest with you, it was the best thing we could have done for the whole weekend, because again, we got there, got into the ExCeL Centre and got our numbers, which I have to say was absolutely seamless. Hats off to the organisers of London City Marathon. It was absolutely fantastic. All the people along the way were very helpful as well. But I was in and out of, first you had to drop your bag, and then you had to go and collect your number. In and out of those two situations in 10 to 15 minutes. Spent about 10 or 15 minutes in the expo. Me and Bankela have had our lateral flow tests done, so we could enter, but our daughter, they weren't allowing anyone under the age of 18 into the running show. So I just went in, got my number, and did a quick spin around the running show to pick up some merch. So I got this nice top for myself, and I got a nice t-shirt from Bankela. Quick look around and out the door. So I probably spent about 10 or 15 minutes in there as well. Back out of the ExCeL Centre, onto the DLR, into the city centre, another trip on the tube. And we were in the hotel, I'd say about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So from our flight taken off in Dublin Airport to us arriving into the hotel after getting to the number and back was pretty seamless. The public transport in London is absolutely fantastic. So then it was food and an early night. So the next day then we did the tourist thing. We got the tourist bus, as you can see here. We had loads of fun. Got to see all the nice sights of London: Tower Bridge, Parliament Square, Embankment, St Paul's Cathedral, Scotland Yard. Fantastic, really enjoyable. A nice way to spend a couple of hours. Now the weather was quite inclement. If the marathon had been on a Saturday, it would have been a tough day to run because it was very windy. And it was nice because we came across Tower Bridge and we swung left and brought us along Embankment into Parliament Square. So you could see the blue dots or the blue line along the road for the race. So I got a pre kind of run of what the last couple of miles was going to be like, which was great to see. One thing you can see here coming across Tower Bridge, you can see the road it's not that wide. It's wide enough, but along the pathways the whole way along, it was like 4 or 5, maybe 6 people deep, and the noise was amazing. But when you came around the corner and you saw Tower Bridge, it was amazing. Like that was something really cool during the race. But that's what we did the day before the race. Did the touristy thing around London. Didn't do too much walking. Had a nice big bowl of spaghetti bolognese, and some ice cream, and then an early night again. So the morning of the race then, I set my alarm for 6 o'clock. Got up, gave myself loads of time, Had slept really well both nights before the race. Obviously, the night before the race, found it hard to go sleep. You're thinking about what's going to happen the next day and all, so it's all running through your head. So, got up at 6, took my time, got ready, and here we go. Okay, so here we go. It's 7:15 a.m. leaving the hotel to try and make my way to the start. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure. I think I know where I'm going, but I have plenty of time anyway. Very calm on the streets of London. Calm before the storm. Successfully negotiated the underground and in Cannon Street train station now on the train that will bring me to Maze Hill, which is more or less smack bang at my start end, so all good. Getting to the race start was pretty seamless, no hassles at all. Same thing again, all the people in the tube and the train stations, so helpful. Free transport then as well, like do flash your number and it was through here, sir, perfect. Got there in plenty of time. You can see coming up here, this is Maze Hill now. This really is a hill. It was about a kilometre up, really steep, and just trotted up. No one was running. Everyone was nice and quiet, just strolling up. When we got up to the start area, loads of room in the start area, loads of portaloos, really well organised. And the really nice thing about it for me was 2 years ago when I did New York, I was surrounded by thousands of people before the race, but I had no one to talk to. And 2 days ago now, it's just over 48 hours since I finished the race, but I had loads of people to talk to. On the tube and on the train going to the start, everyone was chatting. It was really jovial, friendly, really nice. Then in the start area then I bumped into a couple of people I knew, which was brilliant. And then in the starting pen then I hooked up with my old sparring partner David Leonard, and we had been talking during the week about how we were going to approach the race. This is actually quite important, but we'll get to that now in a minute. But everything at the start, I have to say, was organised absolutely brilliantly. Plenty of room for everyone, no crowding, just really good. Let's have a little look at how I looked during the race.
Wow! Dad's not with those questions. You'd be listening further down. Sean! Crusaders! I'm not even being serious. You're the wrong side of your road. We'll get into the next spot, will we? Yeah. We gotta go, quick!
I'll hold the flag and you. I'll hold the flag.
Go, Sean! Sean! Well done!
So, as you can see, started off nice and chirpy, got a little bit less chirpy, and then ended up with a bit of a few grimaces, and didn't look too comfortable by the end. Going back to what I was saying there about my old sparring partner David Leonard. David, I'll see you again. But we had chatted during the week over messages about how we were going to approach the race, and the talk was to take it handy in the first half, and then we felt good to go tip on the second half. David was saying the same as me. If he got around the 3 hour mark, he would have been very happy. And then when we met up, the conversation was still the same. And the last thing he said to me before we started the race is, oh, by the way, I did a 3K time trial during the week and I ran 17:50, I think he said. I was like, okay, I wouldn't be able to do that at the moment. So the race started, and for the first 5 or 6 miles, we kind of ran together. It was more me kind of running after David. He was obviously in much better shape than me, and consequently, I probably slowed him down a little bit at the start, but he sped me up a little bit at the start, and I went through 10k in 41 minutes, which is way too fast. Like, that's 250 pace. Went through. My target was to hit 20 miles in 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I did that just about. I think by a couple of seconds, just under. But I didn't get there the way I had planned. My plan was to run an average pace of 6:45 to 20 miles, and I did run an average 6:45, but it was a case of running like 6:30s and then drifting out with the pace rather than run a steady pace, because I went off a bit too fast with David. I was committed to the pace. I got to halfway in just under 1:27, and I knew it was going to be a long way to the finish from there. Like, I was still going pretty well at that stage. I went pretty well up until heading towards 20 miles. But the last 10k, I'd say the last 8 miles were really tough. Getting to 20 at that 2:15, I knew then that even though I had 45 minutes to run the last 10k, that it just wasn't going to happen. And the time, just every mile just drifted out until I was running around 8-minute mile pace. And the left quad had been a little bit achy walking up that maze hill at the start for the race, and I was a little bit concerned about it. And later in the race, it did start to really ache. And consequently then, whatever way I was running to try and avoid that ache, my left knee started to really hurt then as well. I was in a huge amount of discomfort. But I was saying to myself, no, I want to run the whole way. I don't want to stop. I want to run the whole way. Coming along embankment, like, I was at getting some great shouts. Shout out to the O'Connor family from my home club, who were there at about 12 miles and again at about near 25 miles. And Bankaila was there on 3 separate occasions as well. And because I was wearing the Crusaders top, I got loads of cheers as well, which was absolutely brilliant. A really, great buzz, like. But I got to embankment, and you go through, I don't know what the name of the tunnel is now, I might put it up on the screen, but I show you a little film of what it looks like. And it's a pretty long tunnel, and there was music being played at the far end, and it was like a rave, like, it was mad. And I came out the other side, and you're on embankment running along, and I got along a bit. I could see Westminster up ahead, and I was in severe discomfort, and I was running along by the crowd to try and feed off the crowd. And I just said to myself, like, the O'Connors gave me a shout, and that really helped me. And I said, I want to run a good bit past them before I stop. And I said to myself, right, get to 25 miles and you can stop for a second, because the knee was really hurting at this stage. So I hit the 25-mile mark just before you turn right at Westminster towards Parliament Square, and I stopped, and my 2 legs were just like pure jelly. I nearly collapsed. But I just held it together, walked for a little bit, and got going again. And I said, okay, you're going to run a half a mile before you can stop again. And I did. I ran another half mile, stopped again, and then I said to myself, you can run a quarter of a mile and you can stop again. And I ran another quarter of a mile and I stopped again. And I ended up stopping, I think it was 4 times in all, but stopping and walking for maybe, it seemed like 10 or 15 seconds, maybe it was longer, I don't know. But I stopped and I'd walk for a little while, and what I was actually doing was I was feeding off the crowd, because the crowd is so deep and heavy there and so boisterous. Like, when they'd see you stop and they say, be telling you, asking you to come on, and I just give them a thumbs up, and I'd walk for a bit, and then I'd take off. And when you take off, then you get a big roar, like, and it gets you going again. And I kind of used the crowd to kind of get me there. And I saw the 600 meters to go mark, and I walked a little bit at that. And you eventually get around the bend by Buckingham Palace, and that bend goes on forever. And because I was so unstable on my legs that I couldn't really cut in around the corner tightly, because I was afraid I was either going to bump into the barrier or bump into someone and get knocked over, or getting people who were still running well. I didn't want to be getting in their way either, like, so I kind of stayed out, well out. And when I eventually came around that bend and I saw the finish line, I exclaimed, "Thank God!" And I ran then the whole way to the finish. And then I came in under the line and was just trying hard not to fall over, and just barely walking along. And that was the end of the race. The highlight for me on the course would have been Tower Bridge. When you turn, you take this right hand turn, and there it is in front of you in all its glory, and it was absolutely amazing. The crowds on either side, the beauty of the bridge, all the people running. I mean, it's so iconic, and it's tough running up it, you know. And I was just like, it was one of those emotional moments. That was the great thing about the London Marathon. Cutty Sark was the same. The thing about Cutty Sark I found was, when you're running around, you're like, oh my God, I'm running. This is Cutty Sark's, like, you know, this is London Marathon. This, all the crowds and all the people running. And then there's a big Nando's in front of you. I was like, oh. But anyway, it was brilliant. Like, I know there was a friend of mine, Alona McElroy, at that point, and she was shouting and screaming at me, but I didn't hear her. You seen this picture here. I think I have one of those blocks in my mouth trying to eat it. Actually, with the nutrition, for the first maybe 10 or 12 miles, every 2 miles, I ate one of those Cliff blocks. Found them good now. I'd put them in my mouth and just have them for a couple of minutes in my mouth before I'd start chewing on it. It'd soften up and I could eat them fairly well, and I found that worked quite well. I took loads of water after my experience in New York, dehydration. I took loads of water on the course, because after maybe 4 or 5 miles, my singlet was stuck to me with sweat. Like, it wasn't cold, it was warm enough. I think the temperature at the finish was like 15, 16 degrees Celsius. Not roasting, not cold either, but when you're running 26 miles, like, it's you need loads of water. So I was very good on with regards water on the course. You know, I did New York 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago, and if I had 20 points in this hand about New York, I'd have 1 or 2 positive, and all the rest of them would be negative. And if I had 20 points in this hand about London Marathon, I couldn't find 1 negative point about the London City Marathon. It was absolutely amazing. The whole experience, from start to finish, number collection, course, stewarding, picking up your bag at the end, being able to find on Bankela and Saoirse after the race. Absolutely amazing. Public transport to the race, free. So many different ways I could have got there. You know, there isn't one thing. There isn't one single thing, not even a half a thing, not even nitpicking. I can't find anything that I would criticise the race about. The only one thing I could say, and this isn't a criticism, and this is something other national associations should take into account. For the first good half, if not more, of the race, and even later in the race, I was passing good for age runners, because they have their national championships in the London City Marathon, and the reason those people are ahead of me is because they get priority, and that's correct and proper. It's their national championships. They're more important than me. They should get priority. So I was passing, you could see, because they had a bib on their back as well with their age grade on it, like, and I was kind of at the start, I was passing all these people. I was wondering, what's going on here? How are these people in front of me if they're so slow? But they're not. They went off. They went off with just after the main guys, so they probably started 4 or 5 minutes ahead of me. And no, it's right and proper that they started ahead of me. So it's not a criticism. It's actually another fantastic thing that London City Marathon do for the people of the UK and for running, because one funny thing was a girl I know who's a member of Crusaders, Anya Kenny. She lived in the UK for a good few years and is still a member of our club over there. And I was running along and I saw this girl and I said, I don't recognise her. And she didn't have Crusaders on, obviously. She had her UK bib on. So that's Anya Kenny, because I knew she was running, like, and I ran up right beside her and went, there's Anya Kenny now. I frightened her, gave her a big fright, and she went, oh, Sean. And we just wished each other luck, and off I went. And the gas thing about it is, she only came in about 2 minutes behind me, so congratulations to Anya. I think she ran a PB, I think she ran 3:09, her first time under 3:10, so fantastic for her. Fantastic for me as well, in that I got through the race completely unscathed. I know my left knee was really starting to hurt. It's 2 days since I finished the race now, and my knee feels fine. One of the reasons I started to walk was because I didn't want to, there was nothing there for me in regards. Sub 3 was gone, nowhere near PB obviously, so it would just get to the finish unscathed, and there was no point in trying to continue to run just to be maybe 2 or 3 minutes faster and then end up with a knee issue. Like, the muscles will recover with a bit of tender love, but if you hurt a ligament or a tendon, that's not good, and it wouldn't have been worth it, you know. The question probably a lot of people want to answer is, did the shoes make much of a difference in the race? Hard to tell. What I would say is that 2 days later, 48 hours after the race, my legs feel pretty good. I'd say I could even go for a run tomorrow after another night's sleep. Normally after running a marathon it would take a lot longer than that. Like, I can get up and down the stairs no problem now. The one thing I would say is that later in the race, when I did really slow down, they're not fun to run, they're not nice to run in then. I would imagine if I had got my pace and strategy correct, I wouldn't have bonked as early, and I probably could have ran a lot closer to 3 hours. I could even have broken 3 hours if I had ran smarter. I don't know. But the shoes were nice. I had to say nice to run in. Protected me from the pounding. Got no hot spots at all whatsoever. That's one thing I don't think I told you, that I actually had changed. I was running this. I run in Saucony and Dorfman Pros in a size 9 UK, and I got a new pair, and I got a 9.5 UK for the marathon. Because I was after running a couple of half marathon distances in 9s, I was getting a little rubbing. I think I might have said it in a previous video, but I got the 9.5s and absolute toes, no burning on the toes, absolutely no problem at all whatsoever. I remember at one stage later in the race when I was kind of in a bad way, the soles of my feet were a little bit sore for maybe a mile or two, and then that passed and I was fine. So as regards to shoes, like, it's something I'll have to continue to dig into as I return to what I would regard as peak fitness. So that's it with the shoes. So there we go, guys. London City Marathon in the bag. 3:07:50 I think I ran, but who cares? I had an absolutely amazing experience. Loved every bit of it. Would highly recommend doing London City Marathon, and I will be back.